Chris. Welcome back, episode 3. Here we are, man. I know how you already are. It's like match day, Christmas Day, walking into a candy store. You're excited.
Well, you brought your buddy in last week.
I know,
so I had to bring my buddy.
Had to have you bring yours. Go ahead, Chris. Introduce him. Who do we have here today?
Gotcha, guys. Hey, today we have a guest named Matt Harris. Matt, I've known you a couple years now. Super motivated guy, super talented guy, and super interested to just have everyone hear your story. So, Matt, why don't you just go ahead and tell us who you are?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me out. It's good to see you again and be here. Dom, it was nice meeting you.
Absolutely.
My name is Matthew Harris. I run a video productions company called Blitz Studios. Blitz Studios, we do a wide range of projects ranging from corporate promotional videos, real estate videos, event recaps, short films, documentaries, weddings, pretty much you name it. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one area. That's like the most common question I'll get is, what kind of projects do you work on? And I don't have an answer because a lot of them are unique, so it's hard to categorize them to like one specific thing. We're not very niche. We do a lot of different stuff.
Do you have a pretty specific age demographic as far like, are you working with more so people under 40, kind of all over?
I mean, a lot of them are companies, so you know you've got like obviously more than one person in a company.
Sure.
So I wouldn't say it's stuck. I mean, the wedding side of the business, the demographics are pretty like straightforward of like 20 to 30-year-olds, young professionals. But outside of that, I wouldn't say we pinpoint it down to like an age demographic. Okay.
So Matt, what's interesting about you is I like the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been interested in doing, your business. You've been doing this since sophomore year of high school, right? So your business really started off as your passion, right?
Yeah, I definitely got involved in video productions and short filmmaking when I was in high school. I was not serious about entrepreneurship then. I was a pretty classic high school kid, just kind of messing around with cameras and stuff and seeing what I like. And so senior year of high school, I started doing, I got my first paid project to film a synchronized swimming show, which I forgot to turn the mic on the one main camera, so I had no audio. And imagine trying to match up 11-year-old girls just kicking their feet out of water. It was horrible. It was terrible. But I have learned since then.
Yeah.
So
I hope
so. Really, yeah. So I got involved my senior year of high school, and then when I went to Baldwin Wallace, both my parents were into sales and business, so that's originally what I was thinking. I was just going to study marketing and business, but I was kind of well, I really like doing this, and I seem to be kind of naturally good at it, so I might as well just study film along the way. And then at my undergrad at BW, really Lacey and the SIG, I still wasn't super interested in entrepreneurship in undergrad until I got involved with some extracurricular programs that kind of focused on entrepreneurship. And they were they pushed me. They were Matt, you need to, write a business plan. You need to do this. Let's go get you some clients. And so they really pushed me to kind of go out and venture on my own, which definitely was the greatest decision I've made thus far in my career.
So just for the viewers, explain, who is Lacey? What was the SIG?
Yeah, so at Baldwin Wallace, they have a building on campus called the Center for Innovation and Growth, and which is short for SIG. And at the SIG, they run programs that focus on student entrepreneurship programs. You do a 1-credit class that infuses leadership, leadership virtues into entrepreneurship. So I got nominated by a faculty member to join that program, and then that's when I started writing the business plan. I started doing pitch competitions and started taking it a little bit more serious.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So in high school, was it just an elective class that you took that helped you kind of figure out I have the bug for this kind of work, or why video production? What led you there? Yeah,
so I was taking video productions. I wasn't super serious, but I actually had a good friend. I got to give a shout out to Ace. That's his nickname, Ace. And he's a very creative guy too. So we were good friends, and we would always just kind of I guess play with our imagination per se. And we would talk about these movie ideas that we had, and kind of just would joke around and go off on these tangents about, we call them like cinema rants or whatever, where we would like pretend that we were filming a movie and make these scenes, and we would be like dying of laughter about it. So that was kind of like our just us messing around. So then we started like actually getting serious about it when we started taking the class together. So being in the class with him and having like a buddy that was as serious about it as I was, we started kind of taking the projects to the next level. Like, the first film we did came from a prompt from our teacher. Was like, the prompt was, the world would be a better place if ... And you'd have to go film like pretty much like you doing like for fun stuff. So like my video was like so corny. It was like, oh, if we gave back more and we filmed me at Goodwill, like giving them like clothes or whatever. Yeah. And we go to film his, and we didn't have a plan for it. And like, this is gonna sound crazy, but at the time, like, this is when ISIS, you remember ISIS, like was kind of being bad, like bad characters in the world. And my buddy was like, yeah, the world would be a better place if ISIS didn't exist. Okay. And so for some reason, that like got us onto this rant of making a short film called ISIS Takeover, where it'd be like James Bond. Yeah. But it instead was Sterling Williams, who Ace played as the main character. And we made the first one, ISIS Takeover. And like, it was like a huge hit at Revere, because we got a bunch of kids from the school to be in it. And we like we were playing it the other weekend. Like, it was hilarious. So, like, everyone loved the movie. Like, teachers would play it in class. And, like, we rewatched it the other weekend. Like, it's pretty good. Like, for us just messing around, like, it's, like, hilarious. Yeah. So we ended up doing that in the fall of senior year. And then, obviously, we had to make ISIS Takeover 2 the final chapter in the spring. So, like, our senior year, like we were making the shorts like every day. Like, that's what we were doing after school. We were planning, we were writing the scripts, like getting all the characters in line. Like, it was a whole production. So that's like really what inspired me to like continue pursuing this as like just a passion. Yeah. Because at the time I wasn't even thinking about it as a career. I was just having so much fun making these movies, and was like, I like this a lot. This is cool.
It's kind of crazy. Even when we had Zach Buckeye on last week, like, he never saw himself as an entrepreneur. He never saw himself as making brownies. It was just kind of like a hobby that he did, you know? But the older I get, the more narratives you hear about people like Matt, like Zach, who just kind of fall into the like, they have the entrepreneurial spirit. They don't recognize it at the time, maybe, but they're very passionate about something. And eventually that turns into, a successful business,
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, that's sometimes how the best relationships, businesses, ideas, anything like that is, where all of a sudden it's almost like the popcorn theory, where it's like, the colonel sitting next to the fire and the scientist looks, and all of a sudden he looks over and it's a different form, and he's like, oh, we have popcorn. Like, you're sitting there and you're like, holy crap, I like what it is I do. I'm pretty good at it. I kind of have a business here. And I felt that's what like Zach had, So for you, was it, like, do you look back on your experience at Baldwin Wallace now and say, okay, that's an integral part of my life? Or do you look back and say, damn, man, I really could have started my business out of high school? Like, what kind of role did those 4 years play for you as far as helping you advance yourself to a business owner?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, the college experience in itself was definitely important. Like, I had to go out on my own, kind of figure out who I am as a person, and just having that kind of maturity, aging aspect of college, of getting out of the house, living on your own, kind of figuring things out in your way. And kind of like what you were saying, like, I was never serious about entrepreneurship. I have the characteristics of an entrepreneur in terms of like being a risk taker and kind of going with the flow, more of like an outspoken person. So from that aspect, like, I had all the traits, but I just like I said, I was just going with the flow. I was enjoying high school, enjoying college, and kind of taking it one day at a time. So I think it did play a big role in terms of like just the professional development it gave me, and kind of fostering what was inside of me the whole time, but also helping me realize that this is like a serious profession that I could take full time and be successful with.
Sometimes I always get that sometimes, like, even as being a mortgage banker, they're like, why'd you go to college if you weren't, because to be a mortgage loan officer, you don't need to go to college. You could literally just pass a test, and then, 30 days later you get your license and you're good to go. Right. But it's that like professional development over the 4 years. Yeah, the student loans suck, but it teaches you a lot of just like the maturing process, even though I didn't really necessarily, and maybe you could speak on this too, like even though, yeah, like, cause you're in psychology, like that has nothing to do with like, you know, our business now, but the experiences, the people that you meet, I mean, that's what's worth it, you know?
You can always look back on, you know, with where it is you're at now, with where it is you're at, whatever. Anybody who went to college and is now in something where you can say, I really didn't even need the 4 years. I think it does serve its purpose well, not only in the sense of like what it is you were saying, almost like, hey, I got to go out and just experience things. Like, you know, I've been with my parents my whole life, my whole 18 years. Let me go and learn time management on my own. Let me learn that like I have to get up and take my ass to class and get my homework done and do my own laundry and get myself food and this and that, like that responsibility. One conversation I had with Hesh before is he believes firmly that, and there's kind of like the polar opposites of it. So like, for example, somebody who just says, screw it, I'm just going to go do, I don't know, like a trade or work in a factory versus somebody that says, I'm going to go to college. He firmly believes that the individuals who decide to go to college, whether or not it's you graduating with something that you're going to use, those 4 years are a very, very important time for our brain at the time, like going from adolescence into adulthood, right? Where as males and like females, we're still growing into that and our brain is developing. For us to get like hardened set beliefs and like learning, I don't want to say traits or characteristics, but like habits and studying and this and that. So I would say college for me just, I mean, like, you know, people say, oh my God, I'm done with school. I'm never going back to school. It's school every day for us in our job. I'm sure it is for you, learning, you know, new cameras you can use, different techniques for us, new guidelines. I mean, we have to study guidelines daily. So, and it's memory retention with that as well, which is basically what school was. So I would think it was just very important for developing the brain and also just habits. And again, having that time where it's you just going out on your own. Now you can get that outside of college, but I think college is like the most basic and fundamental way to get that experience that's going to help you grow in that regard, you know?
So Chris, remind our viewers again who it is we are and what we do.
Hey guys, both Dominic and I are loan officers here at Liberty Home Mortgage. So if you or anyone you know is looking to purchase or refinance a home, please email us at the elevateclepodcast@gmail.com. Subject line, looking to purchase or refinance a home. Email's in the description.
Yeah, I think that too with college, it's kind of like a happy medium of being an adult but still being a kid. Like if you don't go to college and you go to trade school and you're done and you're working full time by 19 and you're out on your own, like college is nice because you're still kind of a kid, but it kind of gives you that cushion to fall into.
Yeah. Like
developing.
Yeah.
It's like a slow process before like if you graduate and you go straight into the working field, it's kind of like a rocket ship taking you into adulthood, and college is more of like easier way into it, which, I mean, when you're that young, like a lot of kids kind of need that time to still like mature at 18, 19 and figure out what you want to do versus kind of getting straight thrown into adulthood right away.
I mean, you kind of did on your own though. I mean, you went from, okay, so like, you know, you and Chris just closed the loan a couple months ago, right? You're a homeowner now.
Congrats, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I already said that.
Yeah, congrats. But I mean, for you, like, you know, we're homeowners, but we still have a company that pays all of our expenses, essentially, like for everything that is like related to business, majority of it, right? Me, you jumped into like, okay, college, now I'm a homeowner and business owner. I mean, everything's on you. You have people reporting back to you. How's that feel for you? What has that transition been like? I mean, you seem like a very laid-back type of guy. I mean, no offense taken to it. Like, I wouldn't take you as like the business owner right away. How's that been for you? And how is it being a business owner as far as like your time management and just management of people as well?
Yeah, it's stressful because while I'm a good business owner or per se entrepreneur, I'm not the best manager of people. That's kind of like one of my like weaknesses, I would say, is that like I hate like when my employees are texting me every morning, like, what am I supposed to do today? I want them to be like knowing what they're supposed to do. Like I don't love that aspect of my job of like not necessarily babysitting, but having to like oversee everything they do. So like that's always tough for me. And two, it's kind of like with the nature of my business too, it's at least as of now, it's very like per project base. So like we might finish like one project and that's it with the client. And they might come back 6 to 12 months, but I don't know if they're going to come back. It's kind of like, this is the project in front of us. And when it's over, the cash flow is gone from that client. So that in itself too is definitely nerve wracking because there's times where it's like, we're wrapping up projects and I'm like, all right, I need to get more business on the books. Like, hopefully more projects come kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it always works out. Like at this point, like anytime I swear every time I start to get that kind of antsy feeling of like I need to book more projects, I'll get a big inquiry and we're back to business. So it's kind of funny how that works out. Like even just like the other day, I was thinking about December, and because a lot of my projects are wrapping up now. And I didn't want to take on a lot of projects for December because I'm kind of enjoying this time of like just finishing things up and really gearing up for 2022. But one of the biggest projects I've had for my business came about, and we're signing the agreement today, and we're going to Texas next week. So
That's awesome.
So like it's just kind of funny how that works every time.
That's awesome.
So
I start to get nervous.
how do you get? So take us through. How do you get your book of business? How do you build that up?
Yeah, so the book of business, it comes through, well, obviously current clients. I have a couple clients that come, like the bigger accounts, they'll come back to me on like a month to month or every couple months for projects. So they'll keep us busy as kind of like the core of the business. And then there's obviously the referrals. So just word of mouth of working. People like really do like our work, so they're always referring us to other clients. And then the rest is just through advertisement, whether that's like online, Google search ads. There's some like marketplaces that I use. So like if you were to search video production companies, Cleveland, like, and if you look at the organic search results, yes, some companies, some homepages come up, but there's also other websites that will be like top 10 video production companies in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And you pay to play to be on those websites.
Oh, yeah.
So a few of those websites that I've kind of developed over the course of the last 2 years of building reviews, like a great profile, being able to show up first on those search results has really helped get new business.
Could you break it up in like a percentage, like in a given month? What's a percent that you get from the different avenues of, your business?
Yeah, I would say, oh my gosh, I would have a better answer at the end of this year when I look back at my data, because I've been collecting data on all of our projects and how everything's been broken down to cost, so I know exactly how well I've been running the business. But I would say maybe 30, because it depends on the month too.
For
like,
sure.
It's very like,
Yeah, you'd probably have to
like,
take an average.
yeah, I would say 30 to 50% comes from retainer clients or just clients on a monthly basis, and then another 10 to 30% come from one-off bigger one-off projects for a client, and then the rest 70 or the remaining 10 to 30% will come from not necessarily a project start to finish, but it's like an out-of-town agency that has a client and they just need a production company to go shoot for their client, and we give them the raw footage.
Like Texas?
Gotcha.
The Texas one?
Texas is a start to finish.
Okay.
Where
Oh, yeah,
I'm
okay.
handling the client management. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to edit. Like last week, there was a client from San Francisco. They work for like Primco. They do like financial advising services.
Sure.
They have a client in Fairlawn. They needed to go do a testimonial video. They didn't want to fly in from San Francisco. They hired us. We
So they
went and
subbed you
shot.
out, yeah.
We shot them all the files through Google Drive, and I get paid for the day, and we go our separate
awesome.
ways.
Can you talk on the Texas client?
Yeah. So the Texas client, it's pretty much for a woman. She's an entrepreneur, and she does. So the client, it's a little bit sketchy because it's an NDA kind of thing, but she is working for a Fortune 200 company that does a lot of like paint supply. It's not Sherwin-Williams. They do a
Okay.
lot of like paint supplies though, and so they have a lot of warehouse workers. And obviously, when you have a lot of warehouse workers, you get warehouse injuries and stuff. And so she's a physical therapist, and she gets these corporate contracts to go in and train the workers on how to properly lift, like that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And so she has to make like training videos for that. So we're going to, the company. We're going to warehouse. I don't think it's an NDA, but I don't know. Maybe just beep that out. We're going to their like warehouse to film like some training videos on how to like properly lift. It's not like the most glamorous project, but
It's a project.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
gonna pay the
I mean, that's a
bills for
huge
sure.
company.
Yeah, that's on your legal team if it is an issue.
Yeah.
Which is me.
Yeah. So we have an upcoming guest in the next couple of weeks, John DeJulius. His brand, the DeJulius Group, is one of the largest that speaks to a lot of big time. I mean, they've spoken to the Ritz-Carlton, Carnival Cruises,
Starbucks.
Celebrity Cruises, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, the whole nine, right? He owns John Roberts Studio, which is like a hair salon in Northeast Ohio. And I don't know exactly where they've expanded to, but it's a pretty big salon. He has a few branches.
A lot of places,
Okay.
yeah.
His big thing is the customer experience. And what you touched on is majority of your clientele is repeat business. So that is for a reason. Not only, I would say, in the product that you are pushing out to them and the work that you do, but I would also say in their experience with you guys. Because if they thought that your crew was a bunch of jerks or they didn't like you and you guys were lazy and not responding, they wouldn't go with you. So take us through your management of customer service and Blitz Studio and maybe a couple selling points that allow you to take over another competitor if it's like between, hey, I'm with Blitz Studio and this company.
Yeah, I actually talk about the customer experience a lot for the wedding business because when the weddings, like you don't really know the client before. I mean, we talk on the phone, we get them the proposal, like it's all good, but it's not like they're like my friends or something. So when we show up on the day of the wedding, like this is a very important day in their life. So you're obviously trying to leave a good impression on them. So I really, with my crew, focus a lot on the client experience because I know that even if the videos weren't as amazing as they want, if we were there the day of and they just loved working with us and we were super friendly, passionate about what we were doing, that will like compensate for maybe bad audio in a ceremony or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So that's like one thing I really focus on with the weddings is that when we get there, we're very friendly, we're very engaging, we want to get to know them because that can often lead to even a better experience than just the quality of the videos themselves. And so that's like one thing I focus on a lot for like the consumer side of the business is like that customer experience they have the day of the shoot. So I'm always like bringing home those points with my crew when you're going out. And if I'm sending someone that's not myself or if I'm hiring people, like I want them to be very like customer-oriented people that are very easygoing. Because too, with like video and stuff, you can get like not the most like customer-centric or people person. Like if you're video editing every day and you're in front of a computer screen, like just naturally like the talent you get if you're posting video editing jobs aren't going to be like salesy people. So it's kind of like finding that balance of making sure that when I bring someone on too, that they're going to be like great client facing. Because like I get really good reviews when I go out because I'm just like a happy person. I always bring good energy where I go. So like I always get good feedback. So that's definitely like a really important experience too. And just being like responsive and transparent too about what we can and can't do. Like I never try to overpromise and underdeliver if they're asking about stuff. Like I try to be as upfront from the beginning as much as I can.
So if you had to since you've had Blitz Studios, have you had to, adhere to bad customer experiences?
I mean,
and how do you respond to that?
Yeah, like bad customer experiences. Like I've never gotten like a bad review and like if a client's unhappy. I mean, I've had unhappy clients. I found that like a lot of times with video and unhappy clients, it's a lot of like egos in the way. People don't like the way they look on camera, but like you won't notice, right? I'll send the video thinking they look great, they sound great, and they'll come back and they'll be complaining because their jacket's a little like scruffy in the shoulders if they're wearing a suit coat. So I'm like, dude, no one's ever going to notice that. You're fine. But like the one guy was like freaking out because he said that his suit coat was like a little fluffed in the back and me as the director didn't tell him to pull it down.
No.
And I'm like, dude, I didn't even notice that. Like no one is ever going to like watch this 2-minute video that has a ton of B-roll and action shots.
He was that pissed?
Oh yeah, he was not happy. So like the other guy was like super mad because like he wanted to scrap the whole video because he was sitting down for the interview instead of standing up. And he thought that looked like super unprofessional. And this was like a well-lit interview. Like it didn't look unprofessional. Like we had a great backdrop, like lighting and everything. And so I've learned over the years that like some people can get in their own way. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, if they're super unhappy, I'll give them a refund because like I said, we're such a like per project basis that like one refund is not going to be the end of the world, and I'd rather have them not leave. One bad review stays with me forever kind of thing. So it's like if it's a smaller project, I don't think I've really ever had to issue a refund, but I'm willing to if it comes to that kind of thing.
I mean, people are word of mouth these days. You know what I mean? They click on your company and they see one bad review, and then it's like, I don't want to work with these people anymore.
And it's like to an extent, like if they're complaining about their jacket, I'm not gonna give them a refund after we've done all the work because they don't like how they didn't shave that morning and something like
that's
that.
on you.
But if there was something on us where like we screwed up the files or the audio got messed up and it's like on our fault.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna do everything I can, whether it's free reshoots, bend backwards to make sure that they're happy without screwing myself over.
Yeah.
Dominic, I love what he says about just the soft sells. Just being super friendly, maybe getting the guys or gals to laugh, especially us as salesmen. Sometimes it's not just getting right into the numbers for someone who's purchasing a home. Like I want to get to be able to know the client a little bit too, because I think at the end of the day, that's motion creates emotion, and how someone feels they remember a lot.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things I'm learning off Matt Luptak a lot, and what I'm trying to integrate into my sales calls is really like pulling people's pain points out, and harping on those as far as like, hey, what, at the end of the day, and maybe there's not certainly, all the time with a video, maybe there is. I mean, the pain point would certainly be like, hey, and pain doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I'm hurting or I'm depressed and down. A pain point is just like an emotional point that you're trying to, pull the strings on, the emotions, because that's what people are going to buy off typically is emotion, right? So, for the wedding, obviously that's an easy one. Like, you just talk about the wedding, light them up. Like they will go with you all day long because you are focusing on their day versus like, oh, well, here's the cost. Here's this is what I do versus like, hey, wow, this is a big day. Tell me about that. So for me, it's just what I try to do, like you're saying, is in that first couple minutes, build the rapport and like, hey, at the end of the day, you're going to talk to 5 other lenders. And they're just going to jump into the numbers for you. But I want to know why it is that I'm even providing you numbers. Sure, you're trying to buy a house. That's easy, right? Everybody knows that from this inquiry, you're trying to do that. Maybe, right? 95% of the time. But, like, why is this important to you? Why is this Chris Doyle's transaction, not just some individual buying a house?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And what I would advise any salesman is like, hey, you got to differentiate and make it an experience for them, right? It's the customer. It's their wedding. It's not just another project in December for Blitz Studio. Yeah. It's Joe and Jane's or whatever's, that's their wedding, that's their big night.
But how many people in that wedding and they see Matt like super intense into filming and they're like, wow, actually like I'm like this guy. I'm going to be proposing to my fiance here, or my girlfriend in a couple months. What's his number?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I got to imagine that you're the guy literally like with the family dancing at the end of the night. And they're taking pictures of you.
The reception, I'm vibing.
Yeah.
Well, and like that's the thing is I did like a friend's wedding. I filmed their wedding and like I had a lot of friends at the wedding and I kind of felt uncomfortable because I go so hard at the wedding, like filming and I'm hitting all these angles on the gimbal and they're all watching me and I'm like, I got a little self-conscious because I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I really like filming friends' weddings because like I'm going really hard here. Yeah. They're like, this dude is just filming weddings, like taking it so serious. But like I just love doing it. Like, and that's like the funny part with weddings too is that like when I graduated college, I had this mindset of like, I don't want to film weddings. I was like, that's so cliche. Like being a wedding videographer, like kind of like that's below me. I don't want to do that. Like I want to do bigger and better things. And then as I graduated and I just needed jobs, like obviously weddings came up and I started booking them. So I had this balance of doing both like the corporate work and the weddings. And I quickly realized, I'm like, wait a second, like this is way more fun than the corporate stuff. Like you go to the wedding, everyone's all dolled up. It's the happiest day of their life. Like it's just a huge party. You get to meet a lot of people and you can pretty much get paid the same amount. So I'm like, damn, I had this whole thing backwards. Like weddings are lit. Like this is great. Like this is awesome. Like I'm eating filet. Like I'm getting free drinks. Like they're having fun. And like a lot of people be like, oh, well, you have to deal with the bridezillas. And I'm like, it's quite the opposite actually, because for a corporate video, I might send them and if it's like a big company, they're going to come back with like 20 tweaks. Oh, can we change the font? Can we move this up a little bit? Like they'll get super nitpicky, which is fine. I don't mind doing it. But it takes more time. For a wedding, I send them the wedding videos and they respond, oh my God, I love this. Thank you so much. Where can I leave a review? And that's like it. Or maybe like, hey, can you add a shot of my mom into the highlight video? And it's like so much easier. So in reality, I mean, yeah, I do have a couple bridezillas, whatever, but in reality, the client, it's a lot easier to manage because half the time they just say like, thank you, this looks awesome, and that's it. Versus a corporate client, I mean, we could go 5-10 rounds of edits before it's done. So
Yeah.
Do you see the business going, like, where do you see your business evolving to eventually?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I don't know if I'll stay in the wedding business forever from that aspect and from the corporate side. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I love filmmaking. So if I can kind of pivot more towards short films and documentaries and like bigger contracts for like longer projects, that instead of doing 10 projects per month, like one project that's 6-month contract kind of thing. I would way rather have that so I can just really sink my teeth into something that I'm more like passionate about versus just kind of juggling projects. I feel like the part of me has kind of sold my soul to like corporate video and stuff because it pays really well and I enjoy the cash flow of it. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of draining.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I want to go with it. I'm gonna see what happens in 2022. I'm gonna bring a couple more people on and really try to grow the business and just, like I said, just see where it goes.
So you're just gonna try and like, you know, head down, just gonna grind as much as I can, make as much money as I can, and then, you know, eventually get into like, you know, the short filmmaking, documentary filming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's really like 2 ways I can grow the business from here, and it's either we're gonna grow it horizontally or we're gonna grow it vertically. And so what I mean by that, it's, so like right now, the way we set up our business model and the pricing, so, which is taking some time to learn. So pretty much how I bill is on production days. So half day, full day. We don't do it like per hour. And then whatever, how many days it takes, and then crew size. So typically projects are like 1 to 3 people crews. Because that's all I can, I mean, if I could bill more like higher person crews, I'd like to, but that's just all I can in terms of manpower. So like they'll get billed on the half day, full day shoot rate. And it's typically starting at 2 people crews just because lugging the gear around, like I hate doing 1-person crews now unless it's something super easy. Yeah. So that's how we bill the production. And then we bill editing time at $75 an hour. And so if, let's say a corporate client comes to me, we'll be like, okay, it's 2 days, 2 full day shoots, 2-person crews, 40 hours of editing, $5,000 for the corporate video. And then it gets billed into a one-off project. But it's like a time and materials not to exceed. So we'll say like you have 3 rounds of edits you can do, and if they're out of scope, you're gonna get billed more for the additional time it takes us to complete this. Okay. So that's kind of the long story short business model of it. So at $75 an hour, like I could grow, like that's still a pretty affordable cost for small to medium sized businesses to pay. So instead of raising rates, I would just grow horizontal and keep it at the $75 an hour and just bring on more editors and try to do 20 projects a month, but still tailored to more of like the medium and small businesses out there. So that's obviously one way to grow. The other way would be vertical, where you continue to bump up your rates and then you take on less jobs, but they're higher end clients.
Gotcha.
And is that just, so like for you to reevaluate your business's prices for your product, is that just based solely on skill, which I guess necessarily you can't have a measure? Like I don't know how you would measure the skill on like video production. I mean, you could look at it and visually see a better company over another, but there might be different styles. So for you, is it, let me just look at my demand. The more people I have, hey, listen, I can't take on as many jobs, or hey, I have to hire more people to keep the prices the same, or I'll take on less jobs and increase my prices. Like how do you scale and make your product more, I guess, of value over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, like that's like the weird thing too about video productions is that there's nothing like proprietary about it. Like anybody can go and shoot. So like that's like one of the biggest challenges of like the business model itself too. And it's not like, I mean, you are selling a product, but at the same time it's a service. So it's kind of like what are we? Are we a service or your product?
You're
like,
the product.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's your time.
So it is. It's at the end of the day, the business model is based around time, which is very difficult because it's not like we're selling, like, you know, cost of goods sold, like margins, like it's a little bit more tricky than that. So that's something I've definitely struggled with over the last couple of years of like, how do I build like a sustainable business model and scale? And so to answer the question, I don't even remember what the question was.
As far as pricing, like how do you how can you ever increase revenue by increasing pricing? Is it based on demand, or what's your measure of that to say like, okay, hey, it's time to reevaluate?
When am I going to raise rates? I think that
Or how is that even devised? Like, how did you come up with the 75 and the
is that industry standard, or is that more something that you just kind of figured out?
I just $75 an hour for editing gives me a fairly solid cushion of being able to pay editors and overhead and still keeping a cut for myself. So that's kind of where I figured it out. Like, so if let's say I was paying an editor 50 grand a year to work for me at $75 an hour, and they're not going to work 40 hours a week of billable time. So let's just say they're working 30 hours a week. That's going to bring in like roughly 120 grand. So that's still leaving about $70,000 per person of like quasi gross profit. I mean, minus the overhead and stuff, but labor is definitely going to be the biggest overhead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got that business model. So like, let's just say if they were working 40 hours a week of billable, that's 150 grand a year minus the 50 grand. That still leaves me 100K that I can now have of like disposable income to use on whatever, buying gear or
reinvesting in the company.
In the company, that kind of sense. So that's kind of where I got the $75 an hour from, because that still gives me the nice margin, but at the same time, like, people can afford $75 an hour. It's not $200. It's not a lawyer. You know, you're not paying a lawyer for video edit, because you got to think like from a skill standpoint, like how valuable of a skill is video editing. Like, you can go to Fiverr and get someone to edit video for $5 an hour. So it's kind of like that value proposition of like, I don't want to like knock myself out of my own market because I'm trying to charge too much.
Okay, so then take us through that. Why not just go to Fiverr? Why go to Blitz Studio?
The value in it, I mean, well, it depends on the project too, because yes, we're shooting the video too. So like, you get the whole client experience of our vision. Like, if you're trying to do let's just say you're a company in Cleveland and you want to do a promo video for your manufacturing firm. Like, you could try to shoot it yourself on your iPhone, then send it to someone in the Philippines to edit. But your end product's not going to look great versus if you came and hired someone that said, like, that gave you creative ideas. Like, hey, why don't we do this? Like, I'll bring the expertise. I'll write them a storyboard. They have that kind of professionalism. We'll bring the thousands of dollars worth of gear, and we'll edit it a lot better than somebody on Fiverr. So I think that value proposition, too, and, like, the consulting aspect is why it's someone local that they can call too, you know, if they have questions or back and forth.
I always think that a good saying to adhere to what Matt is saying is the cheapest is always the most expensive. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you can have you could go to Walmart and get the cheapest, you know, whatever item it is.
Knick-knack, whatever it is. Yeah.
Exactly, or whatever it is, and it's not going to be quality.
You're going to be back there in 30 days.
And then and then what are you going to do? You're going to end up buying like something more expensive at the end of the day. Like, I personally would rather just spend a little bit more to get the quality, and then I don't have to worry about it. You know?
It's like a car that's going on you. Like, how much are you putting in to keep that thing running on the road versus, hey, dude, just go spend an extra $200 a month if you can afford that, and get something that is not going to be a stress for you going into work or just getting you to, you know, point A to point B in a much better fashion.
And you got to think too, like, if you're a company that's doing, you know, 10, 15 million in revenue, and you're doing a company overview that reflects that, like, you don't want it to look bad. For a few extra grand to, you know, get a nice, well done video, it's definitely worth it in the long run to pay the upfront cost.
I get it. I mean, I've used Fiverr, and like, it was a rhetorical question for me. Obviously, over Fiverr, if I'm gonna have you shoot, like, I'm gonna use you over Fiverr, right? But at the end of the day, I guess what I was more or less trying to get to is like, what are your selling points? Like, what from, you know, I can name off one other guy who, like, we used to work with who does the same thing. You know, why Blitz over said person X? You know, what sets you apart?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because like I said, there's nothing proprietary about video, so I think it just comes down to the price and the quality of work, and who you know. Really, it's like who's reaching out to you. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I think it's just
I think it's person too. I mean, at the end of the day, what I always tell clients is, listen, you know, you could walk down said main street in any main city and probably find 3 to 4 production companies, 3 to 4 lenders, 3 to 4 realtors, if not more, right? At the end of the day, it's all about relationship. I don't want to work with every client. I'm not going to get along with every person on the initial phone call, and that's completely fine. Just like I'm not friends with everybody in the world. So I think for you, you're a very likable guy. You're the head of the business. it's a very enjoyable hobby for you, I would say. So I think a main selling point is your team, who it is you're bringing out. I mean, I'd have you at my wedding as the photographer. I could see you out there having fun with it.
Here's the proposal.
Yeah.
So,
gold package.
But that's huge. It's the friendliness,
That's
being engaged. And could they go to 3 to 4 different video production studios? Maybe. But at the end of the day, you're getting quality at the end of the day. I mean, I'm sure if I called you at 9 at night, you'd pick up. You're the owner of the freaking company. You better pick up.
You deliver the product on time. I mean, I've heard stories of these videographer guys where it's,
showed up late,
an hour late, and you have people
and they may have
sitting there for you.
They may have good product.
They may be awesome,
But it's like, hey, you're not responding to my text.
Yeah.
Or hey, it's like, where were you on the set? Like, I'm here about to film, and I'm with guy A, B, and C, and we're just waiting. Yeah, we're waiting here.
Yeah.
Or we have a deadline, and you're 3 days late. I don't know where you are.
That stuff that is always worth the extra penny. There's no doubt about it. It just always is. I think in any service or any type of product you're trying to buy, So, Matt, what I'm interested in is, you have this, you're talking a lot about, obviously your hobby is the business of videography. I think even if you didn't have the business, you'd work for somebody, right? You love doing what you do, or you'd freelance, right? Is the business part of it something that gets you going as well? Like, do you really, I could just sense in your voice, but is that as much a hobby to you, or do you find that the business side of it becomes a little bit more daunting and you wish you could just be out there videoing more?
I love it all. I love the balance of both being able on some days to just like run the business and do that aspect of it and like overseeing. But some days when I get tired of that, I love just to sit there and edit all day and like not deal with people. So that's like one thing too when I think about growing, like what role I find myself in. I'm like, I don't know, am I going to be a salesperson? Because like if I keep growing, like I'll eventually have to be a salesperson. Like that will be like what my role is really bringing, because I'm going to be able to sell my company the best.
Yeah.
So like, but I'm kind of like sad by that, because I'm like, man, if I really like transition to a role where I have enough people and I'm having to bring in like 50 grand a month in revenue, like I'm going to be making appointments every day for that. And then I'm like, well, that's kind of sad because I won't be shooting and editing as much now. But if I edit for like 3 straight days, I'm like, I don't want to edit anymore. So I love the balance of having best of both worlds.
Makes sense.
It depends on what I'm editing too. Like I like doing the more creative, like fun stuff. Like I don't, like some of our jobs are very cookie cutter, just pays the bills. Like I don't want to be, because it's not a good use of my time to be doing like simple editing, like cutting clips and stuff like that. Like that's not what I should be spending my day to day on. So I think it's just having the time management of like picking and choosing what I want to do. But at the end of the day, I'll be selling a lot more in 2022 versus editing.
So, and we've had Marcus Ogden, former NFL player, and Zach Buckeye, owner of Buckeye Brownies, and they both talk about routine and how important that is to them. And I just want to understand, like, do you have a certain routine that you just don't break, or is your day just a little more chaotic and you kind of just respond and pivot to everything? Kind of take us through what your day looks like. Do you have a routine? Do you not have a routine?
No, I don't have a routine, and I could be better at that. I could be better at having discipline too. That's like one area I always tell people, like I need to be more disciplined. I'd get like a lot more done.
How so?
Well, when I sleep in too much, I need to get up earlier. That's like an issue of mine, is that I sleep in. I mean, I still work a lot because I keep track of all my hours, but I think that I could use some more discipline in my life. In terms of like a routine, like no, I don't have a routine. My day, it depends on the day. So like if I have a shoot that day, that's obviously going to determine my schedule for the day. It's going to revolve
Everything
around.
works around that. Okay.
Yeah, it works around like going to the shoot, because like we'll go to Columbus and Pittsburgh. So those days, like I could be up at 6 a.m. to make my daily commute to Columbus. So like if it's a shoot day, it revolves around that. If it's not a shoot day, but if it's like the day before a shoot, I'm going to be in the studio prepping the gear, charging the batteries, making sure we're all good to go for the next day. If it's a lighter day, I'm probably still going to be in the studio just responding to emails, reviewing edits, overseeing the editors, making sure things are getting done, doing some editing myself, taking sales calls, payroll, accounting, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's different for everybody. Like, you have Paul Gabriel, Everything Money, who came and talked to us and has a completely different perspective what, Hesh has.
Way more laid back.
Exactly. I mean, he was telling us, like, he doesn't have a set time he goes to bed or a set time he wakes up. He just goes to bed.
Every day's different.
Yeah. And I mean, he's running, like, what, 20 million in assets or something like that.
Yeah, he's got a big portfolio.
So I think it's obviously, you say maybe you need more discipline, but maybe that's what it takes to make you the best person you can be. I mean, obviously everyone needs a little bit more discipline, but if it works for you and how you respond to your work, I mean, I don't know, maybe it works.
Some people work with that, like they find order amongst their chaos, I just think that's a typical artist. Like, you just, I would.
The more creatives, like the creative types, are not going to be like very
more laid back.
Like,
when they're on it, they're on it.
Maybe when you start scaling, maybe just get a secretary or something. Just someone to just like plan your day out for you. Because if you're not good at organizing, just like hire somebody to do it for you.
No, like organization's not my strong suit by any means.
Yeah.
So for you, you talked about how you recognize when or where your time could be better spent, right? You know your skills and how to utilize those skills to the best of your advantage for yourself and the business. Is that where hiring came into place for you, or is that where it will go in the future? Like, damn, I got to be honest. I'm the best salesman in my company. I only want to take on this X amount of dollar of projects, then I'll edit, but I'll do one a month for 1 week. So I'm going to delegate everything out to more editors. I got to hire more editors. Like, is that why you hired people, because you realized your time is better spent elsewhere, or was it you just had too much work?
I just had too much work where I kind of, like, I graduated in 2019, and I went full-time in May, and by August, my back was against the wall, and I'm like, whoa, this is too much. I got to find, like, an intern. So that was kind of like the start, was like, I'll just get like an intern, someone to, help out like here and there kind of thing. Brought an intern on, and then I was like, wait a second, this is not an internship role. This person is very valuable. Like, I need them to be on point kind of thing. Like a two-person company, like they were pulling a lot more weight than I had anticipated. So I kind of had to pivot from there. But it was mainly just because, at first I was just shooting and editing everything myself. And then I just had too many projects and I had enough cash flow at that point, because when, all the billable hours at $75 an hour, I was like, I need to start bringing on more people when you get 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week of editing time. So,
And how many people are under you now?
Well, we had some turnover. So the one girl left. So it was me and 2 full-time employees, and then I had 2 freelancers bouncing around on projects. So there was kind of a range of 3 to 5 of us throughout 2021.
And what's your goal for 2022? Are you trying? I know you said you want to scale and everything.
Yeah.
Do you have a set amount of people that you want to hire? Or is it just as much as work comes in, I'll respond to that?
I want to be a little bit more proactive than reactive for 2022. So I'm going to bring on an editor. Like, I'm going to post a job probably like next week and try to get someone to start. So I have 2 editors again in the beginning. And then I'll probably wait like another month or 2, get them settled in. Because it takes a lot of time, too, on my end to, like, bring someone on.
Sure.
Yeah, so I want to bring them on, and then I want to bring another editor so I can have 3 editors and shooters, and then ideally, like, a marketing salesperson as the 4th, and then me, 5 total.
Damn, so you could get pretty big in 2022.
I really think like I can push for it, and I think we'll do fine. I just have a fear of scaling, and that's like my biggest issue.
But you're taking the risk, and I think that's as long as you have a decisive action plan. You'll be fine.
What's behind that fear for you? Like, is it? I'm not even going to speculate. What is it for you with scaling? That's like nerve-wracking.
It's the fear of the unknown. So like I'll have to it's expensive, first of all. Like payroll is obviously the number one expense. So one, it's expensive if I bring on more people and if the business doesn't come. Because the whole point of bringing on the editors is to remove me from that role so I can focus more on the sales side. So with that being said, it's that fear of losing money. And I'm like content too with what what is happening now. Like this year was a great year and I made a shitload of money and I was very happy. So like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but like I enjoy like the hustle and like the growing a business is a passion of mine. So I want to continue to like pursue that passion, but it's like that. I don't want to burn and crash.
So it's not like you're out there saying, "Oh, I have to make $1 million for this thing for me to say that this is a success." You have found comfort in the fact that, holy shit, coming out of college, a couple years later, when I started this thing in college as one man, I'm now at this point with my business over 6 figures. Like, whoa, this is cool. You know, like I don't have to go to more so now where it's just becoming a hobby of like, hey, let me just see how much I can, like your kid, like we were talking about last week, like your kid, like let me just guide this thing well. You know, let me guide this child well and like kind of be there as it grows. You know, so for you, is it not number driven? Is it more of just like
growing the business?
Yeah, the business itself.
Which, I mean, obviously I love making money, and if I can make $1 million at 26, I'd be the happiest man in the world.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
maybe.
I think it's more of like the fun, and too, like if I like the more I grow, the better the projects will be too. So it's kind of that aspect. Like if I can grow and continue to develop the brand, the reputation, like only better, more fun projects will come about that. And too, like the capacity for us to take on more bigger projects, I'll have that, you know, opportunity to do so when the time comes. So it's kind of that both of trying to get more into like the filmmaking side of it and just the fun of growing a business.
That's awesome.
So Chris and I come to you, we're investors. We write you a check for 50 grand each. You now have 100 grand. Money's not going to be an object there for the company. What are you doing to blow your business up in the next 12 months with that $100,000? Like where would capital be allocated in your company as a media company to grow it?
Well, definitely bringing on a salesperson and a marketer and the editors would be first and foremost, because we can only, right now with 2 people, me and the other guy, like we're already at full capacity just with projects, with not even taking on new projects. So definitely like expanding capacity and then sales, and then pretty much the rest would probably be going towards advertising dollars and, you know, like more aggressive Google ads, LinkedIn ads. I don't run really any social media ads, so I haven't really explored that opportunity. And then there's just different markets too that we could enter. So really just seeing like the different areas of the business that we could grow and focusing on that.
Yeah, I know you're saying you wanted to be proactive rather than reactive. So what are you trying to do, like a salesperson first, then editors, or what's really more important to you to have on?
Definitely the editors first, because like too, like quality control is another issue that I run into. Like you can bring on editors, but if they're not up to my standards, like I go back and re-edit, because I'm not going to send something to the client that I don't approve of. Right. So I find myself still, even with the editors now, like I'll go back and re-edit their stuff because
that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah.
That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, it definitely is frustrating.
Yeah.
It's frustrating one, but like two, it's also kind of like a personal touch thing. Like it's a creative industry. It's not black and white. This is exactly how you're supposed to do it. So there's a lot of gray area there of like what you might think looks good, I don't think looks good. So it's kind of training them for my eye, and like that's just a learning curve that anybody deals with. So that's one area, is the quality control and finding good editors. Because it's not like I can pay an editor 100 grand a year. Like if I could pay an editor 100 grand a year, they would probably be like a kick-ass editor and knock everything out like that and be amazing. But I don't have that capital. It's more of like an entry-level job. So it's kind of like taking that with a grain of salt. Yeah. You're going to get more of like a raw talent than you are like an experienced person.
Yeah. Do you see yourself kind of like, I know you said when you have an editor and you have to go back and maybe re-edit it, does that come from like, you know, maybe like a control freak kind of background, or is it just like your passion for quality?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's more passion for quality. It's just like watching that, I'm like this
could be better.
This could be better. Let's do this. Let's do that. And a part of it's just like the nature of the game. You know, like I'm always going to oversee. I might just send him, like the editor, re-edits, be like, hey, let's do this, let's do that instead, and send it back to me. Okay, this looks good. Now it can go off to the client. So that's like one, and then two. It could be a little bit of a control freak. I like to make sure it looks good.
I feel like a lot of CEOs, that's like a common thing with CEOs is like, And I think it's a hard thing to just try and get away from, is making sure obviously you can delegate and, focus on what you're good at, but putting faith in other people,
Yeah, I think that's a big part of any highly successful person that now realizes, like, okay, in order for me to go to the lengths in this that I want to go, I need other people with me, and I have to learn to trust that they're going to do just as good of a job as long as my training as well and meets up to par and everything. So I would imagine, like, a first person that I hire down the road, it's going to be tough for me because I know I'm a control freak when it comes to certain things, right? When it comes to certain things, like when it's to your name is stamped on it, like it's Blitz Studio is Matt Harris, that's sending to a client. Yeah, you're my employee, but like, dude, that's my name.
It
that's
is
my review.
Because if they mess up, I mean, they're not the ones at fault. It's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you hired a processor and then they messed up on something, they, don't send a loan estimate out on time, or a CD gets delayed.
Comes back on me.
Yeah, dude. No one's going to email or call the processor. It's 100% on you, and 100%. Now your name looks bad. So,
that's right.
But yeah, I mean, controlling all aspects, making sure everything's perfect. I love the passion for quality. I mean, yeah, like you have to have a passion for quality.
And that's the customer experience as well.
It definitely goes back to the customer
100% is. To the point where, I mean, even John DeJulius in his book says, when you put the customer first in that regard and you give them a world-class experience, price almost goes out the door. It really does. Because if it's a type of person where it's like, oh yeah, who's your guy's photographer? Like, gee, like I want to have him. Oh, he's kind of on the expensive side. Doesn't matter. Did you see him at the wedding? We want him there, Or did you see this video he did for us? We want him to do ours, One thing I always like whenever I'm looking at places I want to go on vacation, I always look at their promotional videos. Do you ever get in or see yourself going into, or do you ever market to travel destination type companies or these resorts that want? I mean, they all have them.
You can do one at the Dominican.
The drone.
Because you're going on vacation tomorrow.
And everything.
Oh, no, I left my drone at the studio. I'm about to go back for that.
Yeah, you got to go.
No, actually, I'm meeting with him. I'll just have him grab it. I totally forgot, but I'm taking my drone with me. I already looked up Dominican. They got loose drone laws.
You would have thought he forgot to send out a bill there or something.
No, I totally forgot the drone. No, the opportunities for promo videos are endless. I could go on the list of awesome that's what I think about. I'm private jet companies. I want to do promo videos for private jet companies. I was just stumbled upon that from Bergfront. One day I was on Bergfront, Bergfront Airport in Cleveland. And they have a private shuttle that you can take. And I watched their promo video, and it was super crappy from 2008. And I was just this is such a good opportunity of fun projects to do, right? But all of our business is inbound. So I don't just cold call, I don't sell, I don't email, all of our clients just come from people reaching out to us. And that gets me to full capacity of where we're at. So it's I have a lot of grand visions of, I would love to do content for X, Y, and Z, but I'm stuck here because I can't take on any more projects in our current workload.
But I mean, you hire 2 editors and a salesperson, then you yourself are running the business. You have a salesperson as well, and maybe you are doing outbound.
That's the goal is to get into outbound, so I can start, because then you can start picking the projects you want to do too.
So is it just cold calling? Hey, Key Bank, I saw you had a commercial, looked pretty crappy. Let's stuff like that, or.
I guess so. We'll find out. I think, it's cold call, cold emails, just and I think it's it starts off in the local market, like Cleveland, like Bergfront, hey, I live in Cleveland. I was on your guys' website. I do video productions. Are you interested in beefing up your YouTube page or I thought I could do really cool videos. Let me know if you're interested in talking, or whether that's through LinkedIn or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find out. I've never done outbound. So that's the other thing with going into a sales role. I get a little intimidated because I'm I'm going to have to transition into a new role that I'm not super comfortable with. So that's the other fear I have is just kind of stepping out into that unknown.
I kind of when we were talking before here, before we started going live, one of the things I said was how, and what we were just discussing is how everything is going towards the video, right? So you're obviously in a, Elon Musk
market.
Yeah, a very hot market. Yeah. Elon Musk said in an interview, I couldn't tell you when it was. I just saw the clip, but nonetheless, how he said, he said 15 years ago, if you would ask me what's the profession to go into, I would have said engineering. 10 years ago, I would have said engineering. 5 years ago, I would have said engineering. Now I'm saying anybody who does video production, editing, this and that, that's what you need to go into.
That's what Elon said?
Yeah, that's what Elon Musk
said. Video production?
He said anybody who could clip stuff off, social media type stuff. Oh yeah. So you're in the hot market, right? Everything's good when it's positive like that. Yeah. What are some looming things on the market though that are threats? What is out there that poses threats to you? Is it coronavirus? How did you guys do through that? Is it more competition? You know, what are some market threats for you and your business?
No, I mean, coronavirus is not a threat. Like, it was fine. I mean, obviously things shut down for the month or two, but like people pivoted to digital content. So it kind of helped us in that regards and made people even more value the importance of content because everything went content based versus in person. So I think all in all that actually helped for this year. People kind of rethinking their marketing and strategy. I think the biggest concerns are just the lower barriers to entry. Like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I wouldn't even have my job now because to do a corporate video would have cost $100,000. Like with the cost of equipment and stuff, that wasn't really a thing back then. So as technologies progress, I mean, camera technology moves at an exponential rate. Like these cameras that they have now have come down so much in price, so good in quality. I mean, you can buy Netflix approved cinema cameras for $3,000. Which is not a lot. If you're going to start a business and your startup expenses are $10,000 total, that's super cheap. So I think that's one of the biggest concerns, especially with smartphones and people. I mean, people always say like, "Oh, this smartphone video is so good." I mean, it depends on who you ask, but it definitely has gotten a lot better, and it has like for content purpose, it can serve a great tool for a lot of people. So I think that's probably the biggest threat is like the democratizing of content, of people doing their own versus trying to get it done outsourced.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's no way we could do this on our own.
Yeah. So you mean that like the Apple commercials where they say like shot on the iPhone 12? That's not actually shot
cap.
on the iPhone?
That's all cap.
Yeah.
No, I mean, maybe they do, but they're also using like 50 to 100 grand worth of lighting equipment. And like lighting is every bit. Like the iPhone cameras are good until you put them in a low light situation. Then you can see the difference between a good and a bad camera. Like if you take the iPhone outside where, you know, you have the sun, it's going to look good. But even in here, like if I start shooting on my iPhone and like what people perceive as low light is not the same as what cameras perceive as low light. So like that's like the biggest thing with like iPhones is that like the second they start to get into limited lighting conditions, they're not going to hold up nearly as well as professional cinema cameras.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My final question for you before we'll let you go into yours. What contributes towards your success outside of business? Just in general, like what helps the business outside of you being in the office and sitting at the computer editing that helps you be successful? It could just be characteristic traits, you know, traits that you have or your characteristics. You know, we already determined that you're not you're not Jocko Willink or David Goggins discipline, right? No. So it's not the discipline. Is it the charisma? What is it? What is it for you that's contributes towards your success?
Definitely people comment on my energy a lot. And so I always bring very high positive energy. I don't know, like it's just inept in me. It's just kind of how I've always been wired. And that gets perceived very well, especially on sales calls and stuff. People pick up on that over the phone when I'm just talking to them about their project. So that kind of just bringing that energy and positivity really does go a long way, and people pick up on it like right away. I mean, you can pick up on people's energy pretty quick and how things are going to go. So that's definitely contributed to a lot of success. And I just like the drive, the motivation of entrepreneurship in itself. Like it's just something that is really intriguing because like the sky's the limit. Like, and I just want to get to the top. So I think it'd be fun to be able, like actually a goal of mine, not even a goal, I guess it's more of like a dream, would be like taking a company public and ringing the bell on the NASDAQ. Like that would be like one of the coolest moments in my life if that would ever happen. I mean, it's definitely a very far-reaching goal, but like I just picture that.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah,
that would be the craziest thing for me. So kind of just like I love finance and I love like companies in that aspect.
So charisma and ambition. That's what I take from it.
Yeah,
charisma and ambition, which I see tenfold even just after the almost 2 hours of just meeting you and knowing you.
Oh my quick, this has been fun.
That's it, man. It has. Chris, wrap it up. What do we? What's your final question here?
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Elevate Cleveland podcast. Dominic, wrap it up for us.
As Chris stated at the beginning of this podcast, we are licensed loan originators for the best mortgage company in the land. That is Liberty Home Mortgage. Guys, if you or anybody you know is looking to purchase or refinance a home, doesn't matter if you've done this 1, 10, or 100 times, call us, email us. The email is in the description below. Reach out to that email. In the subject line, put looking to purchase / refinance a home. Whatever it is your goal is, Chris and I will reach out to you within 24 hours, and we look forward to helping you with whatever it is your specific home goal is. Thank you.
No doubt, man. First of all, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, going and following your passion into your business and everything, you took a big risk to do that. I mean, what advice would you give to somebody who's on the fence of, hey, do I take and follow my passion and go into a business I want to start up, or is this something? Do I take the job offer at Key Bank and take the $50,000 a year?
Yeah. So my advice, and I think it's kind of a two-part answer, is one, I feel like for a lot of young people, when they view entrepreneurship, it's inventing something new or something that's never been done before. But like I said, video productions, people do it in the past, so it's not necessarily like having to come up with something new. Like, you just have to provide a value in the marketplace and you can do it. So I think a lot of people get stuck thinking like if they're going to take a job in accounting that they couldn't go and start their own accounting firm, which is not the case. I mean, they can provide value that other big accounting firms can't. So that's number one, is not thinking that you have to come up with a brand new product to be an entrepreneur. And number two is, like, don't doubt yourself if you give something your full-time commitment. Like, that's like one thing people get stuck in, is like if they're thinking about entrepreneurship, they take a job, but then they have that cushion of the job and they have to work 40 hours a week. That just drains them of their energy and time. If you quit that job and you have nothing to fall back on, like, you would be absolutely amazed of what you can accomplish giving something your full-time energy and commitment to. Like, I just winged it. I was like, we'll find out what happens. And like, I remember what I told myself was that I wanted to make $3,000 a month. That was the goal. So it'd be $36,000 a year, because that was pretty much what like an entry-level marketing position makes. And I was like, if I can do that on my own, I'd be happy. And within the first 6 months, and that includes starting up in May with pretty much zero in revenue, was $70,000 like in profit. And that was probably like $100K in revenue.
Let's go.
And that was off nothing. Like, it was like October and I was doing like a $15K month. And I'm like, I would have never thought 4 months ago that 4 months into running a business, I would be doing $15,000 a month.
That's
like,
awesome. I love it.
And
that
so,
is awesome.
like, it just goes to show, though, like, once you do a full-time commitment to something and you're like, this is what I want to do, like, you can accomplish so much more than just being like, oh, I'm going to go work on this at 6 p.m. at night while I'm all cozied up on my couch collecting my paycheck.
Burn the boats. That's what it is. Burn the boats, right? So, Matt, where do people find you? Where do they find Blitz Studio? And I don't know, give a little deets about yourself, and go ahead and plug yourself here. Yeah, you can definitely go to my website, check out some of our work, blitzstudios.video. You can follow us on Instagram at the Blitz Studios. Connect with me, Matthew _Harris 12, whatever works. Thanks again for having me out. Awesome, man. Coming all video or all weddings near you, right? Near you. Hey, we're wrapping up here, episode 3. Chris, another good one in the books, man.
Yes, sir.
We air Friday at 10, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
See ya.